I'm going to start this video by being a little bit self-indulgent and tell you about my story. My mum is and always has been unapologetically progressive. As someone who came to this country as an immigrant from Ireland, she perhaps had the ability to recognise some prejudices that were inbuilt into our society that those that were born here perhaps didn't have the ability to see. Now, it's from her that I inherited a lot of my ideological and political beliefs. As a young person, we used to attend protest rallies together, and today she continues to actively advocate for many progressive causes that I share. Now, my father, on the other hand, he was born into a very working class family in rural New South Wales, and he had to work really hard to pull himself out of that. He spent most of his life working in coal mines, and while he generally kept his political beliefs to himself, I knew for a fact that he supported John Howard, and every now and then I would hear him parrot right-wing talking points on issues like refugees or welfare recipients. I was born on the northern beaches of Sydney, this bastion of white conservative politics. All my friends were white. Their parents were generally conservative voters. As I grew older, the people that I would socialise with or play sport with, more often than not, had conservative political beliefs. And then I went and started a career with the Australian Federal Police, an institution which still today is dominated by conservative white men. I've spent my entire life surrounded by people whose political and ideological views I oppose. And yet, most of those same people, I would say, are some of the kindest, most selfless, most genuine people I've actually ever met. I can't think of any instances where these people were motivated by hatred or prejudice. These were good people who believed that their views were fair. My own father, who I witnessed demonstrate his morality in the way he behaved every day, voted for policies that I found morally abhorrent. And I struggled with this for years, seeing all these good moral people around me hold beliefs that I believed were immoral. Now, that all changed for me with the Me Too movement, because Me Too was this brilliantly communicated campaign which taught someone like me that I could look at the same issue as a woman and we could agree on the facts or the version of events, but that would still look completely different to them, not because they had a different ideology or a different set of morals, but because of their lived experience as a woman. And it caused me to change my view on a number of issues, not because my morals changed, but because my perspective did. And it's really important to recognize that in this process, women generally didn't demonize men. They didn't make men the enemy or try and dehumanize us. They just found a really effective way of allowing men to see things from a woman's perspective for the first time. And this is the key to finding compromise, understanding that good people can disagree on an issue, not because one side is necessarily morally wrong, but because people will view that issue in good faith from the perspective of their lived experience. And compromise isn't possible until you empathize with the lived experience of others. Understanding each other's fears, our insecurities, and our aspirations are crucial to understanding and finding a resolution that could possibly make everybody happy. So why are we so bad at this? Why are we failing to have these same conversations on so many other important issues? A big part of it is the very thing you're on right now, social media. Now, to explain that, I'm going to give you a bit of an insight to some of the metrics I can see at the back of my social media pages. Anytime I do a post that goes hard on one side of an issue, I can always see my following spike after those posts. And that's because people are naturally drawn to a mouthpiece that they feel is going to advocate for the beliefs they already have. Yet, if I try and follow up that post with anything to try and rationalize the other side of the argument or present anything that could be seen as both sides in a debate, I can immediately see those same followers quickly unfollow the page. It's because we hate hearing things we disagree with. That's just natural. It makes us feel uncomfortable. Hearing things we do agree with, it gives us vindication. It gives us the comfort of certainty. No one wants to recognize that something that they've been publicly advocating for a while may not be as clear-cut as they thought. It's an embarrassing revelation to have and takes a lot of humility to admit. So we're naturally drawn to these voices that assure us that our beliefs are the correct one, and those with opposing views, well, they're immoral. This is then recognized by algorithms inbuilt into every single social media platform that recognizes this human desire and feeds it. I have always told my friends that if I actually ever wanted to make money from this page, I would just need to pick a side and then provide material that feeds that basic human thirst for outrage. It would be so much easier because social media rewards anything that triggers an emotional response. And providing complex, nuanced discussions on multiple perspectives on an issue, it just doesn't trigger an emotional response. The material that does trigger that emotional response is that material that pulls us to the extreme on either side by assuring us of the evil that opposes us. By dehumanizing the other side, we're liberated from caring about their perspective. Their arguments are just irrelevant. If they're a Marxist, if they're a fascist, if they're anti-fascist, if they're racist or they're transphobic, we are just becoming less and less willing to understand each other. We're becoming less and less willing to even begin to listen to each other. So how do we overcome this? How do we fight not just the algorithm, but our own natural human inclinations? Well, you have to make yourself intentionally uncomfortable. Seek out and listen to voices that you know have political and ideological views you disagree with. And yes, engage with people on social media, but engage with them not with the intention of trying to change their mind, because we know how difficult that is to do on social media, but engage with them with the ambition of trying to understand their mind. Ask questions in good faith. Yep, you may not always get good faith answers, but if you don't start that conversation, who will? If we don't attempt to reclaim that middle ground where our differences are minor and not inconsolable, then we will continue to move further and further to the extremes, and we will continue to dehumanize each other to the point where inhumanity becomes more and more likely. The algorithm isn't going to help us. You're going to have to make a conscious decision to fight against it. So, how uncomfortable are you willing to get?